Okay, I'm supposed to be on working now, I think. Um, all right. So welcome to Sound in VRChat. It's not that great, but this is the cool stuff we have done despite it. And this FYI, this is not a serious panel. This is going to, this is, okay, well, let me talk what this is going to be about. This is going to be a very simple and brief history of just like what we had to deal with to do stuff, and like, so if you've done like audio integration, this is really what this panel is about. It's about audio integration into VRChat worlds and avatars. I am much less experienced with avatars, so I'm not going to talk about them as much, but the amount of stuff that people do in VRChat with their avatars is insane, and you should look into it. And I'll show you some stuff that people have done. As you can tell, this is not going to be serious because I have a crying pensive emoji, and we're just about to lose it in like the first page. And so I'm going to give you a brief introduction. I am Akalink, who is also known as McPherson Sound, who's also known as Garrett McPherson. And I make great tweets like this one on the left. But I've also made some pretty neat worlds. You can see a couple of screenshots. There's the Flip Flap Foggy Islands, which is a great quest map you should check out. It allows you to fly around the map. There's also this one of like my best worlds called Crypt of the Spirits here, which, since this is a Zelda themed panel, you should go check it out because it's very Zelda-esque. And you can find me on Twitter at McPherson Sound, or if you want to add me on VRChat, please let me know. You can add me at Akalink. But really, about me, I'm a composer, I'm a sound designer, I'm a multi-instrumentalist and an arranger. But I've also am a programmer and a 3D artist and a VRChat world dev, and these worlds conflict. I have two wolves inside of me. Please help me. I shouldn't have two wolves inside of me. So what's going on? What's up with this? So with VRChat, you have the built-in Unity audio source, which I'll show you what that looks like in a bit. You also have ONSP, which is later replaced with the VRChat-spatial audio source, which is, I think it's the same thing, just reskinned. So no Wise, no Fmod, no Steam Audio. And so what does this really mean? So if avatars, like even now in SDK2 worlds, which is the old world, I just call it, that's just what they're called. You're going to have control of animations, which is really, really limiting. And you can toggle stuff on and off. So this is a component. This is the game object. And you're going to have playings with play on await checked. So you really just start from the beginning with everything. You don't really have a way. You don't have a way to like start in the middle of the audio clip, which is something that's rectified later. With worlds, you can use UI buttons, which I have abused, but most people don't do that because that is forbidden knowledge. But it's kind of painful and it's very limiting. You just really have to go around to do stuff. So just an example, this is from Crypt of the Spirits. This is my BGM system. I wrote a whole soundtrack for it. So you have, these are just UI buttons here. So this is for turning on, this is for turning off. Then you have the actual audio sources down here. You can also see my light maps object because I have bakery. So you have the audio source. This is what it looks like. You have all these things. Most of them don't work in VRChat. They're just like, don't work. You can't do Doppler, for example. Well, I've mostly things that here. I'm kind of going all over the place. I'm sorry. So you can do priority. You can do volume and pitch. You can do the stereo pan. This is a 2D audio source, which I'll explain later. And then you can see the actual fall off. And then you can see what the spatial audio source looks like. It's not much there. A lot of people say don't have it on there. I generally do, and I just make sure that this is the only thing that actually affects things. So I have like enable spatialization off in this case because it's a 2D audio source. And I have my state animator state machine here in the bottom right. So this is just to like have like transitions between songs, and they just fade in and out. So it's very simple sounding, but there's a lot going out under the hood. And that's just was the world of these like the old SDK systems not using Udon. So I'm going to go over things other people have made first. I'm talking a lot about stuff that I made because finding stuff that I made is easy. Finding stuff that other people made is a lot harder. But people have made really good soundtracks in VRChat. For example, there's The Devouring, which is a world you should absolutely play if you like horror. It's by Legends VR, and you can find it on Bandcamp. There's also The Fate of the Ereblos, which is by Sir XX. And you should also play their world. If you like games like Faster Than Light, you're going to love this. It's a great space, combat, adventure, roguelike. There's also, I didn't include it, but you should also check out Super VR Ball, which is a soundtrack by Fax Machine. It's a monkey ball type game. People have also made text-to-speech, speech-to-text, and speech-to-text-to-speech systems, and this is using the OSC, which is Open Sound Control. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. You have working synthesizers. I just saw the Fax Machines are underrated instruments comment. You have working synthesizers, footstep systems, which not many people have done. Those are super hard. They don't seem hard, but they're very, very hard. You have these volumetric audio systems, which I'll explain why that's cool in a bit. You have interactive reverb, which I'm going to credit Air.mdl for discovering. They introduced it in Elevator VR back in the SDK 2 days before we had scripting with a recreation of Half-Life 1. And I put footsteps in twice. That's my bad. Working avatar instruments that are actually good. You can tell how impressive I am with footstep systems because I put it twice. You have the procedural audio chase system, which I'm hoping you saw the panel on that yesterday on AudioLink. And then you have actual rhythm games in there. And things I can talk about. I've done some rhythm games. I've done a climbing one, and I've done a step sequencer. I've also done stuff using procedural with audio. I've done a couple soundtracks. I mentioned Crypt of the Spirits. I also did the music for a jam game called Time Breach, which you should check out because it is a rogue. It's not a roguelike. It is like a roguelike. It has a cool looping mechanic, so it's in a way like it's kind of like Outer Wilds in that wild degree. It's really, really good. You learn how to play it, and it's inspired by things like it's horror. I can't remember the name of it. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to self-plug. I've also done some prototype instruments. People's other avatar instruments are way better, but it was inspired by games like Wander Song and the Zelda series. And then I've done some Udon prefabs that were inspired by my work of Fmod, and I've also done my own footstep system that I never published because it don't work right. So I can show my footstep system and my prototype stuff. That basically worked by just doing a fraction of like a person's height and then only triggering when it's under a certain threshold, which doesn't really work. This is OSC. Someone made this. I believe they're actually playing a real electric drum kit and it's going into their avatar, and they're also in VR. This is the cool stuff. This stuff blows me away. I'm sorry I'm talking over it. So we're gonna move on. Can I move on? There we go. So here's some great tools if you're looking into this. I'm really speaking out towards those who work with audio, want to have a creative space to work with, but I'm going to plug Reaper because I love Reaper. It's my favorite audio editing tool. You can also use Audacity, but Reaper's super cheap. Audacity's free though. And then for making loops, I generally recommend using Unity editor scripts But if they don't work, which didn't work for me because I was using Logic files and apparently they hated them, I use Wavesaur, which is, you don't need to use any scripts. You don't need to find them. Just use Wavesaur, learn how to make loops. I made a tutorial on that on YouTube. You can find that. So let's talk about different types of audio. I'm going to start with 3D audio. This is your objects that are in a space. You can see there's a waveform here. And then, so big thing to note, it has a location. And because of that, it's best for diegetic audio. Audio emits from locations. When I say diegetic, it's part of the world. But it's really, really bad for music. And I will cry if you make your music and it's just a single audio source, if a very clear location, and it's just in mono, because 3D audio can only be in mono. And like audio, you can real-time adjust the volume and the pitch, but you don't really have to worry about it. If you just want to leave it alone, you can have a settable distance and fall off. And I showed that in the picture of the audio source. That's completely customizable, but you can't do volumetric audio off the box. This picture down here with Sans is based on a real story where I made a world. This is like in 2019. I made an audio puzzle with a bunch of fire. When you each fire did a pitch and you click on it, when you actually complete it, it would play the fires, and it played out the beginning riff of Megalovania. A VRChat furry Shiba cussed me out after that happened because they were upset that it was Megalovania, and I sent in my mind because I felt victorious. But yeah, you make Discord Notif Wave 3D, you're gonna know where it is. That's the whole idea. 2D audio is the next step. This is going to be in stereo, and this is really good sounding, but it's really best for non-diegetic. It's not part of the world. And when you think about it just a little bit too long, it breaks down. It's weird. So we have a picture of Kronk, and he has the devil and the angel on his shoulder being right and left. He turns around, they're still in the same spot. And that's the kind of issue. You have like speakers up front and you do your 2D audio, you turn around. In real life, their actual panning is going to change because you're changing position. And that's, just with that. And that's not going to be, it's most like wearing headphones. So, listen to VGmtogether, listening to Ro's awesome set from last night with headphones on, but you're in VR. So it's stereo. Then lastly, this is the hard one. Everyone has some Ambisonic mics laying around. Everyone. This is Ambisonic. It's going to be multiple audio sources. If you're going to, say, Game Sound Con, I think it's next week, you're going to be learning about this. But instead of being fixed to your head, it's fixed to the world. So you have like a sound effect that's like in a certain position. It's always going to be in that position with Ambisonics. And these are really, really great for VR and AR. Definitely the cool stuff, but this is harder, and there's plugins these are a lot harder to work with, and they're going to have really big in file size. So I wanted to make this pun, Sonics Ambisonic. Then we have MIDI and OSC, which really aren't audio, but these are really powerful tools that you should be familiar with. I will say, if you're a composer or arranger, look into OSC. I beg you. But yeah, you can use MIDI controllers in VRChat. You can use OSC in VRChat. In fact, there's a picture of me with my face tracker, which uses OSC to do face tracking on my avatar. And I always find it cool. I will never not find it cool. It's like I look at a Game Boy Advance cartridge and I go, wow, there's so much on there. And then we have like a tiny micro SD that's 64 gigs and go, okay, whatever. But you can, because MIDI and OSC are just data, you can put them in VRChat and use them for anything. You can use them for secret doors and all that. And I don't really want to go into it. It's powerful. You can just go on YouTube and just see people make cool stuff. But yeah, if you're a composer, you should totally use OSC to make your own control surface, which you can use to control your DAW. Just saying. And then there's Avatar Dynamics. This is the new thing that I really can't describe properly because it's so cool and you can do so much of it. This is a limited your creativity, but most times I think, oh, just use it for RP violence. Basically, avatars only. You can do interactivity, and it drives your animations on your avatar. So you can just bonk someone. Here's a video of this person discovering slaps on the default avatar.
I need more.
The physics, all my others don't have that.
Pull your left sleeve. Okay, Jesus, so aggressive.
So then I'm talking about udon. It says the big scripting. So it's a scripting language in VRChat. It started out with a visual scripting, but because of how it worked, you also were able to write stuff in C#. But it really makes things much better now. So, for example, you can totally pool a bunch of audio clips into one audio source now, and you can do randomization with that, which is something I've done with those, like when I mentioned those Udon Fmod inspired stuff. You could do random values much easier. I mean, you could in Avatar in SDK3 and for avatars and SDK2, but it's not intuitive. And then you have like unity.dsp time, and you have time.delta time. So you can like select a audio clip in the middle of it. You can analyze waveforms in real time, which I wonder who's doing that. I mean, I am, but what if you push that down to a shader question mark? I don't know, vector math or something. You do volumetric audio. You have like a beach, and instead of it being like, here's the beach one position, it's the entire beach. You can also just stream from a video player. I've seen some clubs and they put reverb on everything. It's that thing that Error made before. And you can't do that with some things because of just how they work. I'm talking about they'll use like the Unity video player, and then there's the other video player. I'm kind of digressing. In Worlds, you can do player voice overrides, which is really powerful. FYI, if you are paying attention to Twitter and you saw the tweet about the furry workout group, I actually do. That's what I've been doing this year. Is I've been doing world dev for them, and I actually made a voice override for as part of that world. I'm not the only world developer on there. There's also some others, and they're wonderful at their job. Voice overrides are really powerful because it allows you to, say, make a stage, and then you can have someone go up on stage and they're amplified. So it allows you to do that. But when are we going to get Steam audio? That is the big granddaddy, and someday that'll be the subject of this type of panel. But here are some of the challenges that are faced in it. And it has to do with networking. Networking is hard. It's just inherently hard. It's hard to conceptualize. Also, you can't hook into a lot of things with avatars. Yeah, you can get like the bone positions and whatnot, but you can't like directly interact with their animator, and you're not going to have access to Unity's audio mixer. But I also kind of want to show off something I made last year with getting audio values. That was so that's a rhythm game I made. Well, by the way, happy birthday, Alex. This is a wonderful composer you should follow on Twitter. Oh, I went ahead too far. I'll talk about it in a second. But yeah, you can get the basic dynamics of an audio source in an update loop, and you can do stuff with that. And that was kind of not needed anymore thanks to Audio Link, but when I did that, Audio Link was already around, but I just needed direct access to it. So I probably could have used Audio Link, but it was a game jam, and you just make what you know. So let's talk about Audio Link. Not much to talk about. Audio Link had its entire panel yesterday, and if you didn't see it, I highly recommend seeing it because it has such a rich history. It's so great. Basically, you want to do interactive. You want to have audio be reactive to your world. It's what you want to do. You want to have it on your avatar. It's even better for that. And my avatar, Audio Link in my avatar is really lame, so I'm going to show you what I did in our world instead. I did not need the 45 minutes for the panel. I'm looking at a clock now. It's probably hard to see in the stream. So I'm just going to stop there. Just what's happening is using Audio Link, I'm driving the emissiveness of those Christmas lights. I can't really show it in the world, but I actually have Audio Link on the speakers in the corner, which you can't really even see, to be honest. I'm using vertex displacement on the drivers of the speakers, and they vibrate with the audio because of that. And that's something I've done before Audio Link, but with Audio Link, it makes it much easier. Also, FYI, I'm doing this with Amplify, which is a visual scripting system for shaders. So you don't actually have to learn how to write shader code to make Audio Link shaders. So that's pretty nifty. And because since Amplify is all Unity, if you're just making Unity stuff, you can use it. Also, you should totally use Audio Link to make your music videos. That's what I want to see people doing. It's not that hard. I mean, you have to learn some 3D modeling. So in conclusion, have you heard of the critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV? With an expanded free trial, which you can play the entirety of A Realm Reborn and the award-winning Heaven's Sword expansion up to level 60, for free with no restrictions on playtime. Sorry, I don't know how they got in there. Actually, in conclusion, so this kind of just gives you a kind of broad view of things. Things are getting better all the time. As you can see, started out really limited, and now it's like really good. You could, like with Audio Link, you are really actually hooking into avatars, which is the thing that is the big difficulty, and that will never change. And users are just building better tools. I haven't even talked about how there are live theater in VR, and there's like live sound guys in VR who are firing sound effects, who are doing mixing on the fly. Another thing that's important, and I didn't talk about that, is a lot of people who do technical stuff don't really have an ear for these things. They make the tools, and it's like, that doesn't sound good. But that's changing as people get more technically competent in this app. More people with good ears for things are making stuff. I'm not saying that people back then were bad. It's just saying that some people who were really technical weren't really great at mixing. And the interesting about the VRChat user base is they really demand immersion. They want the most immersive experience they have. I mean, I have full body and face tracking, and that's really, really immersive. I have also spent too much money on this app. People are coming with creative solutions to problems like Audio Link. That's done in the GPU. It's really, really cool. So, there's not really much more to say. It's really creative, but with that, I'm open to questions. So I'm just going to pay attention to the Twitch chat, and there's a bit of delay, so please excuse me if I'm not very quick. Oh yeah, what kind of um that's a really good question. So a long time ago in like 2018, that's when what is that game? It's the Beat Saber is coming out. There was a lot of the DMCA's because people were like instantly making Beat Saber in VRChat, and it wasn't as good. But shortly after Udon, there was a rhythm game that used your hands, and you could move it back and forth. It was very much like a Japanese style rhythm game. I've seen some people make DDR in VRChat, and because of like full body tracking, you can put colliders on people's feet and use that to detect that someone's stepping on something, and so you can totally do DDR in VRChat. And I think there's like there's DDR in like the VGMtogether instance, like world. So definitely check that out. I haven't seen the extent of what people have made with rhythm games. So hopefully that answers your question. Oh, what is possible? I guess I can extrapolate on it because you're currently the only question. What is possible? That is a very good question. Actually, you have another question. So, rock band drums. That is a really good question. So, I've done some stuff with rock band drums where I would map it to join a key, and then I would open up like Logic or Reaper, like the keyboard to like MIDI keyboard type thing, and it kind of works. I did it on Mac, and it just like eventually just you can't turn it off. It just goes into a system mode and just starts pressing the note repeatedly. But what you can do is do a game controller, and you can pick that up in OSC, and you like it's going to require some technical knowledge, but you could definitely do that. Like, I think the only reason why people haven't done it yet in VRChat is the average age in VRChat is like in the 20s, and I'm in my 30s, and Rock Band was really popular when I was like getting out of high school, and not many people have them anymore. I don't have mine anymore, so just less people who were like super into it when it was out. But yeah, definitely, I would definitely like to see that. I mean, the first like community I really got into the internet was like in the rock band community, and people were like modding their drums to have like actual like mesh drum stuff on it, and it was wild. And people were like buying like full like electronic drum kits and like buying the MIDI adapter for Guitar Hero and then plug it into Rock Band so they can use real drums in Rock Band. People were really putting money into it. It was wild. Yeah, I guess I mentioned some other soundtracks. I would really like to talk about the Fate of the Year of Loss soundtrack, which I'm telling you, go play it. If you don't have VR, you can still play it. And it's very much like really inspired by Faster Than Light. And one thing that's really it really takes from Faster Than Light. It's really cool. Is there's two versions of every track. There's a calm and there's an action. So when you start a encounter and you're fighting the enemies, the music will transition into the fighting version of the track, and then when you're finished, it transitions back. And so it's really cool. In the Devouring, it's SDK2, so things are more limited, but each area generally had its own background music, so it would transition when it would change music as you and evolved as you explored the manor. Highly recommend that world. It's one of the best VR experiences you can have. If you're really afraid of horror, going with people, horror becomes a lot less scary when you have friends. But if you really want to be scared, join by yourself. Well, we have 15 minutes left. I didn't have a chance to really run through this beforehand. I got through half of it, so that's really why it's going short. I also kind of just went, I'll give me the 45 minutes. I don't know how long this is going to take, like 2 months ago. But yeah, I'm going to get onto VRChat after this panel, and if there are no questions, I'm going to wait a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. But I hope this was educational, give you an insight of what's going on. The developers of VRChat really do care about audio. It's like I've used other metaverse type apps, like and oftentimes it's just not as good. I think of Altspace. Oftentimes it's just like you can't tell someone is talking when they're talking, which really in VRChat they make it so you can actually tell people are talking. Things I know are evolving. You can there's going to be, I know that they're working on actually implementing Steam Audio, but that's really, really difficult. And like it's extremely difficult. And so once that happens, you're going to be able to have different spaces, have different types of reverb around them, and you can have you can go into a room and the person in another room will be quiet. You can technically do that now with the audio voice overrides, but that's really hard. And I don't know, people can't just naturally do it. So since I don't have any questions, I'm going to thank you all for stopping by. It's been a blast. And I'll see you all in VRChat.